Hey, welcome to another episode of the Deep End with Ed podcast.
The Deep End. The Deep End. With Ed Robinson. The Deep End.
We're in season number 3, and our theme for this season is leadership from the inside out. We're looking at leaders who are doing some extraordinary things. I'm going to give you what we call a lifeguard tower moment. Remember, lifeguard tower moment is something that you can do for someone else. So for the next week, the next 7 days, I want you to find 5 different people, and I want you to say something encouraging to them. It doesn't cost you anything. It might be a child, it might be an adult, it might be someone who works in public service, it might be someone, a first responder, a teacher, or someone. I want you to encourage someone, because I found that encouragement goes a long way, and especially in light of the tail end of this pandemic and a potential new variant coming along, people really need some encouragement. So that is your lifeguard tower moment. Well, I'm really excited because the young man that I have today on this episode is a young man who I literally have seen grow up. His name is Drew Toussaint. Drew is the Assistant Director of Amateur and International Scouting for the New York Mets, Major League Baseball. Hey, Drew, thank you very much for taking time, man, to talk with a po' boy from Compton, man, about some things that's going on. And I just want to say, first and foremost, I'm very proud of you because, as I said in the intro, I literally saw you grow up. I met your family 30 years ago. I was doing the math the other day. 30 years ago, I've been running with the Toussaint family and just seeing the things that you've done. And speaking of family, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your family?
You know, I was born and raised pretty much in Compton and Long Beach all my life. We started off our first 10 years of my life. We were living in Long Beach, and then moved to Compton. And during that time, I think that's when we met you through Miss Knight, who introduced my dad to Greater Compton football. And then I think that's where all our paths crossed, and obviously, my dad and my mom, before she passed, had, a big influence in Compton youth football and Compton Unified School District and all that.
Oh, okay, all right. And then tell us about your beautiful family.
Yep. My wife, we've been married 16 years, Portia. Then we have our oldest son, Justin, who's a senior in high school, be going off to college at Southern University in the fall. He's 17. My middle one, Cameron, he's 11, 6th grader. And then the youngest, the baby girl, Peyton, 7 years old. So he's turning 8 soon.
It's amazing, Drew. You set everything up for me. So I just want to say just a shout out to all of our GC family, Bob Oliver and the late Coach Sidney, who was Anthony's first coach, and then Coach Knight, and just the whole family, the Simmons family. We just had a wonderful time, man, hanging out. And then I remember your dad had he had that car was like this big, man, that little red car, and he'd have like 10 guys in there. Mike, what are you doing, all those folks in there? So when
my dad was like that. He was the taxi driver. He'd pick up all the kids, bring them home. It was just that was his thing. He loved it. He would make sure, if you're going to play on his team, he's going to get you to practice. He's going to get you to the games. He's going to get you home. That was his thing.
Shout out to Coach Mike. Yeah. So you guys had the Toussaint family always have a lot of love for me. Okay. So then, you went on at Centennial High School. And what a lot of people don't know is that you played quarterback. You were the quarterback there, was excelling there and playing baseball. Talk about your days at 10, man. How you do that, bro?
Yeah. So I've always had a love for football, but my baseball love was exceeded my football love. But I think for me, I always like to play in the games in football, the practice and all the summer stuff gearing up to it. I wasn't too enthused about that, but I love to play football, like the games, And I love football to this day. I watch every Sunday. I'm waking up and getting up and watching, the whole slate of games on that day from start to finish. But I always had a love for baseball ever since I was, real little. And I can remember every year we had like the opening days of like Little League and stuff. I would set out my uniform on the bed, the night before, sleep with my glove. So, the baseball has a special place in my heart, rather than the other sports. And then, it helped to be pretty good at it too. So growing up.
Yes. It's amazing, Drew, because I know you were all league in football and baseball, but let's just focus on your baseball side. So you were doing some big things, man. I remember many games coming out there and knocking the ball at El Segundo Boulevard and
right.
areas, whatever. What was that experience like playing on the baseball side at a home school?
Yeah, it was, it was a good experience because we had leading into baseball. My brother went to Centennial. So, I would go up there and watch the games. And so I met the head baseball coach at the time was Gerald Pickens, right? And he's still there to this day. And so I started playing on like his younger teams first, kind of just leading into, I was playing Compton Little League, and then I kind of transitioned, I think in 8th grade to start playing with him in like some more travel ball type of stuff. And so just getting acclimated, with playing baseball with, a bunch of kids that's going to Centennial, and then show up on campus, as a 9th grader and, getting a shot to play. I start off, I think, on the freshman JV team. And then towards the end of the year, I start doing better. And I got a chance to play a little bit of varsity as a freshman. And then, after that, 10th, 11th, obviously 10th, 11th, 12th grade, I was playing varsity. And, it was a good experience, to play, a bunch of inner city kids that love to play baseball. And we're all just kind of, fighting for that opportunity to be seen.
And it's amazing. We're going to talk about what you're doing, the big things that you're doing in the big leagues right now, Scout. But one thing that I always remember about you, Drew, and I'm saying this, I'm not trying to butter you up. I'm not trying to placate you. I'm not trying to stroke you or whatever. But you always were humble. You always had that level of humility. Here it is. You're a star on the team in both the GC, the Greater Compton Football for Youth, as you went all the way through. Then you move over to the 10 on the football side and on the baseball side, but you always remain grounded. Where does that groundedness and that humility come from?
I think part of it was just my personality. I was always kind of, soft-spoken and, wasn't like real boastful. But just also, having my dad always, instilling that hard work and, never being satisfied. You always got to keep working hard. And so I always had that instilled in me to, just because today, and then baseball is the game that'll humble you also, right? So you could be really good today, and tomorrow you might look like one of the worst players on the field. So it's always, the game humbles you. The game of baseball humbles you itself. So I think it's just one of those things that's like a mix between my personality and playing a game that's a humbling game.
It's amazing, when I think about your work ethic and things of that nature, it kind of reminds me of this book I've been reading up here by Angela Duckworth called Grit, like just beyond, like good is not good enough and you want to excel to the greatness, and you certainly have done that. So to that end, you were drafted out of high school by the LA Dodgers, but then you opted to go to college. What's up with that?
Right. Yeah, I think it was at the time from a maturity standpoint, and just I think the dollar figure wasn't what I was we kind of asked for, and so we just decided it. My brother was going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo at the time as well, so it just made it where it was like, what, I can go to college and I'll get another opportunity, and so it made it easier that I was going to school with my older brother. So,
what made you switch from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo to Southern U in Louisiana? I mean, That's two different areas.
Oh yeah, that was two different. Right, exactly. So just when I got to Cal Poly, just a lack of plan time and development. I thought at the time, and so Southern was recruiting me out of high school as well, and I wasn't ready to go all the way down to Southern, even though my family is from Louisiana. So it was kind of one of those things where I had no choice at that time but to choose Southern because I was ready to leave Cal Poly. And so it was a really good choice. I'm glad I did it. You know, I kind of regret now looking back at it that I didn't go to a HBCU right out of high school.
And it's amazing, you know, looking at your profile and your background. I know that you led the SWAC as a senior in a run, and you were a SWAC all conference, you know,
Right.
just participating. And now look at the juxtaposition. Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, you're the same player, so to speak. And now you're
Right.
in the southern area of the country and you're excelling, which leads me to have you experienced racism in baseball? Because baseball, I don't see a bunch of us. Matter of fact, Drew, I was looking at some stats the other day, and I believe in Major League Baseball, we represent like 7% as of 2021. It was 8%, and then it seemed like it dropped down. And I mean, was there some level? I'm not trying to throw shade on Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, but or let me just ask another way. When did you first start experiencing, or maybe I don't want to lead you. Have you experienced racism in baseball, and if so, when? When did it start?
I don't think I've ever experienced outward racism in baseball. I think I've always been able to my talent in every aspect of my baseball life has always given me opportunity. Sometimes you feel like that opportunity is maybe not the timing that you want it to be, but I think I've always been able to get opportunity to, go in a direction that I want to go in. So I've never experienced outward racism in baseball.
Okay, so it sounds like you, even if it was implied, you did what former First Lady Michelle Obama would say: when they go low, you stayed high. So you
Right? Yeah, definitely. Yep. I think it's one. I think it's one of those things where, even through possible limited opportunities, I think if you just keep going, keep trying, keep pushing, keep knocking on that door, eventually somebody's going to answer, and you just have to be ready when they answer it.
Well stated, bro. Now, Drew, I know from about 2004, 2008 or so, you were. I know you played with the Angels. I know you were part of the Quakes in Rancho Cucamonga, and then even the Japanese League. Right. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so going through professional baseball in the Angels organization, that was, obviously a great experience. I think the cool thing about my whole baseball journey is I've had some really good cultural experiences, right, that have prepared me, for life. So when I was at Cal Poly, I was the only Black player on the team, right, at some point, right? And then you go to Southern, where I'm one of a lot of Black players on the team, right? And the minority was we had a couple of white players on the team and a couple of Latino players on the team. And then going into professional baseball in the Angels organization, it was a mixture. It was a handful of Black players, a lot of white players, a lot of Latin players, from all over the world, some Asian players. So you kind of get that mix. And then going to when I played in Japan for parts of 2 years, I'm all the way across the water, and I'm again back to being one of the few American guys, and was the only Black guy in the organization, and a team full of Japanese players. And then I lived in the dorms with the Japanese players, and they didn't speak English and I didn't speak Japanese. So, just learning how to communicate and having empathy for people. And, it's taken me a long way, these experiences in baseball. So
did you navigate that? If you couldn't speak the language, what do you guys did? Hand gestures, you drew.
Yeah, it was like a lot of hand gestures, and they can understand a little bit of English because of the culture that they like to learn. Western, ideas or whatnot. So they knew more English than I knew Japanese. Put it like that. Okay. So it helped. And then when I was at the ballpark, I had a interpreter. But when I was just in the dorms, just alone, I didn't have an interpreter. So you have to, it was ways, you might say like one word. You try to find that one word that they know that help you, And if need be, I just call my interpreter and tell him to tell them. So that was the other way around it too.
Look for that bridge and that connection in various ways.
Right.
So Drew, which brings me to your current role. So let me back up for a moment. So you went out and you got your undergraduate degree, you did your MBA at Pepperdine University, yes. You got all of the business side, you got the cultural experience that you have. Now you are a scout for a Major League Baseball team, both on the amateur and the international side, for the New York Mets. I don't want to assume anything for my listeners, and at the same time, I don't want to insult anyone. Tell us, what is the role of a Major League Baseball scout? And then what is a typical day, month, week, whatever like? I know it can vary, but talk to us about that. Right.
So essentially, in the departments that I'm helping in, that I'm a part of, on the amateur side, which is also, you could say, the domestic side, we go and we watch all the eligible high school and college players for let's say this year, for the 2022 draft that's going to go on in mid-July, right? So, and eligible high school players are seniors in high school. They'll be graduating in 2022. And then college players are that are eligible are either 3-year college players, so players that have been in college for 3 years, or if they turn 21 within 45 days of the draft. So those are the eligible college players. And so, we go around, and in my role, I'm going around the country, scouting some of the better players, evaluating them, and then we do what we call pref them. So we put them in, preferential order of how we would like to select the players, right? And on the international side, it's a little bit different. I kind of just started into this role, so I don't have a great experience going over to international. Although I've just recently, a month ago, I just was over there in the Dominican Republic, and it's a little bit different right now. They don't have a draft, so they have certain signing periods where at 16 years old, the players are eligible to sign a professional contract, and so. Leading up until that year. So this year we just signed the 2021 class signs early 22. So this year we're looking at the 22 class that'll sign early 23. And so, and then we look at the years ahead. So we're looking at the 23s, the 24s, 25s, we're looking at, over there, you scout, 12 and 13-year-olds. So it's a pretty early process in the Latin countries compared to here. But yeah, so essentially you're just going around the country looking for the best talent and, trying to bring them into your organization.
Okay. So you're meeting, are there things that preclude or prevent you from like meeting with or talking with a player at a certain time, or I know you got you got the social media and all of these other intels that you can get, but I mean, do you get a chance to meet with their families? Or is that, you can't do that?
Yes. So for I'll explain more on the domestic side. So on the domestic side, we leading up into the draft year, when we start scouting that draft year. So when we started scouting the 2022s was last year after last year's draft. So We get a whole summer with them, watch them play in the fall. And then that's when we start meeting with them. So because of the pandemic, what we started doing in 2022, we started doing Zoom meetings. And so we started having Zoom conferences with the families. Previously, before that, we would do a lot of what we call in-home visits. So we would schedule a time whenever we were available and the family was available to have us to host us in their house, and we would go meet with them, talk to them about our organization, what's the day life of professional baseball player, and just kind of give them all the information they would need to decide if they got the opportunity to be drafted and then offered a contract to sign, what it will look like. And then, so now, the pandemic's kind of, getting a little bit better. So some families, it helps us that we can still do, we still do a lot of Zoom meetings with families. Some of our scouts go in home. We get to talk to the families at the field. So it's a lot of communication, getting to know players, getting to know their families, and then they getting to know us and our organization as well.
Now, Drew, when you go to a game like a high school players game domestically, they know that you're coming, or sometimes you just show up, and if so, if they know you're there, I'm playing a little harder, or
Right. Well, usually they don't know. I mean, if he's a really good player, it's kind of assumed that they're going to have scouts at their games, right? So there's never like an announcement of, hey, I'm coming in. Maybe a scout might give the kid a heads up and say, because he wants, say like if I was an area scout and one of my bosses were coming in town, then I would let just text the player ahead of time, like just to make sure, hey, what time's batting practice? Are you just to make sure, are you playing this position today? Just to get information, so when your boss goes in and you guys go in, you have this information ahead of time. But usually it's not, you don't give the kid a heads up that they're coming, but the better players in the country know that scouts will be at their game. So, and you will hope that the player, no matter who's in front of them, they're playing hard every game, no matter if it's scouts there or not. So
when you look at all of the analytics on a player, the profiles or whatever, I'm assuming your team or whatever, as leaders and the coaches and GMs, I don't know a whole lot about the baseball side of it. You guys come together, have like a little discussion about all of these things. How does that work?
Yeah. So there's always continued communication. We put reports in on all the players that we see. There's meetings throughout the year to where, like I said earlier, where we have our list where we start prepping them and start slotting them. Hey, okay, this guy fits here, first round, second round, third round, and it's always a continuous communication, continuous meetings. And leading up to the draft, we have a little bit bigger and longer meetings where we start lining up our draft board. And so it's a huge process that a lot of different departments go into it. We have our scouting reports. We have the analytics. So our analytics team does a lot of things with, modeling and, just to get like projections on players. Our sports performance staff does a lot of stuff, with the players. So it's a lot of different departments coming in and helping out to make sure that we have a thorough process on picking our players.
That sounds very impressive. It's not like you guys just go in the smoke-filled room and throw a coin up and say, all right, Ed or no.
Nah, we can't do that. No, maybe that was probably 20, 30 years ago or something, but not anymore. It's so much more information that's out. So you want to use all the available information, and then you have to have a process of gathering that information and, prioritizing what's important to the organization.
Now, Drew, help me to understand this, because you're a leader and a manager of professional sports. This is just for information. I never understood, how is it that a baseball player can be recruited, drafted right out of high school, but a football player has to wait a couple of years? Can you explain it to us?
Yeah, I think it's just the how the agreement with I guess the baseball made. I don't know. I guess with college baseball and compared to the agreement that's basketball and football has made. So with us, it's a little different. Whereas they get the one shot in high school, and they don't have to declare either. The other sports they have to declare, so they don't have to declare with us, but they can pull their name out if they want. Okay. So we're not allowed to take them, but they don't have to declare. So that's another important thing. What we do, we have to really get a lot of information on, is this kid really interested in signing? Because we're not going to waste a draft pick if he's not going to sign, right? So it's a lot of information that goes into it. So yeah, the player gets the one shot at high school to go play professional baseball. And then if he decides to, let's say he goes to college, and so from that point, it's 3 years in college, or if he turns 21 prior to within 45 days of the draft, right? That's if he goes to a 4-year. If he goes to junior college, he's eligible again the next year. Okay. So, it's different avenues that a player can take to get back on the radar once, even after high school is done.
Now, Drew, look, we're not looking for any names or anything along the line, but in the same vein, do you have parents sometimes they get in the way? In other words, parents, I'm going to use myself as an example. Say I'm 17, 18 years old and I'm eligible, whatever. Well, my pops or my mama, they get in the way of what could have been a good thing, a relationship. In other words, I could have made it to the Mets. But do you ever run across that from time to time where you have parents that just get in the way? I don't know how to say it. They demanded this and blah, blah, blah. And
right. Well, usually, and that's one of the big things that we try to get to know the players and their parents, as well. Obviously, talent this supersedes everything. So if the player's really talented, he might have what we call a hands-on family. The dad. Usually, it's the dads. Where the dad is really hands-on and really connected to the kid. And, we do our due diligence on that, because a lot of times that can affect the player, where the family's too much involved when he goes to leave to go to, play for us. We would like to know that, because that could stunt the player's progression through our organization or whatnot. But usually the talent usually outweighs any issues with the family. But okay. We definitely take a look at it, though.
It seems like there's never a dull moment in the work that you do.
No, man, just it's so much traveling. Going to games almost every day. I just got back home last night from a 17-day trip where I was going, on the Southeast mostly. Yeah, I was on the Southeast mostly, Texas, Georgia, Florida. Kind of did a long run over there, seeing players, and you hopping on planes. Sometimes it's some long drives to get to places. In and out of hotels. So it's very interesting. Every day is an adventure. Every day is an adventure for sure.
Speaking of a great adventure, so you played a key role in getting Dom Smith to the New York Mets. Tell us a little bit about all that.
Yeah, so that's a good story, because before I started scouting, I worked at the Youth Academy in Compton, the MLB Youth Academy, right? And so during my time there, I ran across, it was a good group of kids that started coming through there. And Dominic Smith was one of them. Also, a couple others were J.P. Crawford, Hunter Green, this kid named Marcus Wilson. Just a lot of inner city kids that were coming through the youth academy. And, just so happened that Dominic Smith was, right in kind of like the range where we were looking for a really good hitter, and I had this relationship with them. So that played a huge role that, like we talked about, getting to know the families and knowing the player. well, I've been knowing Dom since he was, 11, 12 years old, and having that relationship with them kind of helped us, help with the signing. We ended up drafting him in the first round and then signed him. And so, obviously now he's a successful major league ball player. And that was my first year scouting. So I was at my very first year scouting. I got lucky and was able to get Dominic after having this long relationship with him. And he's a big leaguer. And then that first year, I drafted a player named Jeff McNeil out of Long Beach State, and he's a big leaguer also on the Mets. So my first two guys I signed as an area scout, turned out to be big leaguers. So that's a blessing.
Wow. Congratulations. Great job. Great work. And I'm sure it's a testament to you, your work ethics, and how you connect with them. Now, you talked about the Major League Baseball Youth Academy over at my alma mater at Compton College. It's kind of like one of the best kept secrets. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I started, it opened in 2006, and I was one of the first, a group of one of the first instructors that, helped out there. And I was doing that during my off seasons playing professional baseball with the Angels. And so, and then transferred to, once I got done playing, transitioned to working there full time for a few years, right? So it's a really good facility right in the heart of Compton, at Compton College. A lot of really good players go through there. They have a really good program, that's turned out some guys that's been in professional baseball, has played, right? So I named some of the guys that played, right? And then we have me, I'm a scout, another scout named Glenn Walker, who's also works for the Mets. Johnny Washington, he's a professional coach at with the Cubs. He's the assistant hitting coach in the big league side, the Cubs, and countless other, other guys that have come through there that's doing big things now in Major League Baseball.
That's amazing. I used to go jogging up there, and I'd run around there, and I remember when in 2006 thereabout, or when they were first putting it together, and I'm like, wow, this is really nice. So and to this day, it's still well kept and maintained. That's why I call it.
Yeah. It's well kept, and they're getting back up and running really, really well after the pandemic kind of shut them down for a while, and then. But they're starting to pick back up and have some players rolling through there too, and they have a really good softball program too.
Cool.
For girls, yeah.
Well, let's talk about this notion of leadership. So we're talking about leadership in this season, leadership from the inside out. Mm-hmm. So you've done all of the things, prepared yourself as an athlete, as a post-athlete, went back. All your degrees, things of that nature. So someone may be listening to this podcast or viewing it on Spotify or an Apple, and they may say, well, I have a son or daughter, whatever, who are playing in sports, and they may realize they got this window of time, so to speak. But it seems like there's life after sports. So in other words, what advice would you, leadership advice or whatever, you would give to someone about, there's a whole bunch of things that you can do, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey, soccer, whatever, from the management side of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I look at it as your sports career is only going to be a really short period in your life, right? After that, you have to figure out what are you going to do with the rest of your life, and for me, it was always continuing to do something in sports. And then I gravitated to being on, in the management side, of sports, wanted to be a baseball executive, and, still working my way through that process. So and I went back and got my MBA, and my MBA specialized in leadership management. Right. And so I really think in this season, a lot of people specialize in, they might specialize in analytics, specialize in finance, specialize in business. I want to be an expert in people. I want to be an expert in leadership. That's what I want to be an expert in.
Okay.
I think the most important part of any organization and their success is the people, number one, that you hire, right? So you have to hire right first. Then you have to develop that talent so they can go out and be successful and be productive for the organization so we can get to our goals, right? So, I think that's a whole, thing as far as communication is a huge part of that. Also, the bigger portion of leadership and, being able to relate to people. And then also having a growth mindset where you're always looking to improve, whether it's as a person or improve the organization from an organizational standpoint of either a product or whatever you're offering. So I think the people part for me is real important.
Oh, that's great. It's kind of like, I call it the principle of leading from behind, so to speak. Getting the right people, as you said, getting them cultivated, but then letting them flourish, giving them resources and removing the obstacles out of the way.
Yes. Definitely being able to have people that's proactive rather than reactive. Giving people the autonomy to, you train them up to be good decision makers and allow them to make decisions.
Drew, whether it's in baseball or let me just use professional sports. And I think about the platform that you all have, men and women have a huge platform. And when you think about some of the social injustices that have occurred around the world, but in particularly United States, and as relates to African Americans and others or whatever, what is your view? What are your thoughts about athletes, wherever they are, using the platform to make a statement? Even if I go on further to say, like, the women in soccer, I didn't realize that the women in soccer who were really kicking butts, won all these championships, and the lack of money that they were making compared to the men. And they
right.
So how do you feel? Not necessarily that example only, but just using it to talk about social issues.
Right. They should. I think athletes should use their platform to speak on social issues. A lot of times when we go on in life, we don't know about certain things, right? So if a LeBron James or, anybody of that stature, he tweets out something, it's magnified, and also having the responsibility of their voice also, so they have a big platform, so they can push certain ideas and push certain agendas, but also they have to be conscious of pushing the right information, right? And making sure that the things they're saying are correct also. So I do think athletes should be on the forefront of activism, right? And pushing specific, especially when it comes to human rights or social justice. I think they should definitely push those things, because I look at it as that should be important for everybody. Social justice, right?
I agree.
I don't think that should be politicized at all. Social justice and that goes back to what I was talking about on the leadership side, being about people, putting people first. Having empathy for people. I think that should be on everybody's agenda, and that should not be ever politicized.
I concur with you. Hey, so Justin is a senior in high school?
Yes.
It seems like father like son. So it's my understanding that your dad told me he's a multi-talented baseball player. So what's the plans for Justin?
Yeah, he's got some talent. He's going to go to Southern University. He needs to get bigger and stronger, and faster and mature more, you know. So he's I think he's on the right track. He's a really good kid. He's you know, he gets good grades. You know, me and Portia always push the educational part on him, and so he's focused on his sports and his academics.
Kudos.
And
kudos.
yeah, we're really excited for him.
Good. Congratulations, Justin. So is he driving now?
Oh yeah, he's a driver.
Okay, all right. And then how about Justin coming up? When you think about him being an African American male, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you've ever had to talk with him as our fathers had with us, you know, about law enforcement and things of that nature. And let me be real clear. Let me be clear, ladies and gentlemen. I am not denigrating. I'm not promoting defund the police. I'm not putting the police down, because I believe the majority are some very good men and women that are out there. Then there's those,
Yeah.
you know, kind of go off script, so to speak. And so I'm just,
Right.
as from one black man to another black man, have you ever had to have the talk with Justin about interactions with law enforcement?
Oh, definitely. We definitely have that talk, and you know, just explaining to him that, you know, you pull over in a safe area, make sure you have your hands on both hands on the wheel where they're seen, right? You really have your window down before he gets there. Have your hands visible, and you follow instructions. I say we can fight a ticket, or you know, or something like that. If you're injured or we can't fight you. We can't do anything for you if you end up dead. You know, so follow instructions. Be nice and courteous, and you know, to me, it's one of those things where I want my son to come home, you know. So we'll pay the ticket, you know, whatever it is, just follow instructions. We'll pay the ticket. If they want you to get out the car and for some reason they, you know, suspect something and they arrest you, hey, we can come get you out of jail too. We just want you to come home, you know. So whatever you do, just be nice, courteous, follow instructions, and you know, no talk back, none of that stuff. So that's kind of the thing that we preach to them.
Well, it's amazing, you know, because I'm much older than you, and same thing was told to me, and I passed it down to my son and nephews and so forth and whatever. And I had friends, because I kick it with a little bit of everybody, you know, from whites,
Mm-hmm.
Americans, Latinos, Asians, and
Right.
it's amazing how when we talk, many of them have never had to have those conversations with their sons, because you know things.
Definitely.
All right, so back to baseball. So what is the end game? What is the ultimate game for Drew Toussaint? What would you like to see yourself 3 to 5, 7 years from now?
I want to continue to grow. I think the next step for me is to become a director of a department. So being able to run a department within baseball, continuously learning about the game, and then eventually my ultimate goal is to run a baseball team, be a general manager, you know, assistant general manager, vice president, something like that, you know. But you know, my goal is to continue to grow, continue to be a good leader. And I think it's all about setting yourself up and being good at the job that you're at. If you can do that, then people are gonna, you know, look for you to be the next, you know, director, you know. And then once I be good as a director, they'll look for me to be a vice president or general manager, whatever. So I try to focus on my current job, being really good at that, and then hope that everything else take care of itself, and say a lot of prayers, and you know, that, you know, I get the opportunity for those other things.
I just think, Drew, that it's just a matter of time. We'll be talking down the road when, hey man, I remember when you were scouting and now you're running the whole deal. And I just say,
Right.
stay the course. It's that old saying, life is hard by the yard, but it's a cinch by the inch, one at a time, and master.
Right. Yeah, just building those, putting those, you know, you got to just put brick by brick. That's all I try to tell my son, hey, you got to lay a brick every day. If you do a little something if you lay one brick a day, that house is going to be built eventually,
That's a great metaphor. And so, Drew, as we get ready to wind down, I just want to do a little bit of what I call lightning round. I just this or that. I just throw just kind of go for it. So, I'm going to way back to your Pop Warner days. So, Long Beach Poly or Greater Compton football for youth?
Greater Compton. Come
on. Baseball or football?
Baseball.
Dine-in meals or takeout food?
Right now, I'll say takeout.
Okay. Interviewing individuals or being interviewed?
Being interviewed.
Okay. And then lastly, I'm going to take you to another sport. The Los Angeles Clippers or the Los Angeles Lakers?
The Lakers, man. It's Lakers here.
Okay, even though we're down right now, you still riding with the Lakers?
Oh, man, I'm riding with the Lakers. I'm riding with the Lakers. We down, we just won a chip 2 years ago. I'm not crazy where I'm like, delusional where we're supposed to win it every year. I understand. We'll be back. We always come back. We always get back.
I appreciate that vote of confidence because I talked to so many people and they're like, man, they need to fire Vogel and they need to blah, blah, blah. Come on, man. That's why I tell fan is short for fanatical. You guys are tripping.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. That's how I am with the 49ers. I'm a fanatic. So
okay, cool.
When it comes to the Lakers, I'm a little bit more strategic and, I have a little bit more patience with the Lakers. So.
Okay, got it. Okay, now, Drew, if individuals want to connect with you via this podcast, how do they connect with you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Drew Toussaint and Saint at Twitter. So, and also my email address is my full name. So Andrew, Andrew, then last name Toussaint, Toussant, the number 1 at Gmail.
Okay. And we'll make sure, Drew, that we have that posted when they do that.
And then you can look me up on LinkedIn too. I'm on LinkedIn as well, full name. So, yeah.
All right, Drew, before we drop off, is there anything else that you want to say to the listening audience? You've been a great guest. I certainly appreciate it. And I just have to say this again, and I mean this from the depths of my heart. I'm just very, very proud of you to see that little kid, and now, you're much taller than I am now, but just to see what God has done in your life. And I'm just proud of you, man. You make me proud, bro. So I don't know if there's anything else you want.
I'm great. I'm appreciative that you invited me on here. When you texted me, I was like, oh, man, right. I was like, yeah, I definitely do that. I've always had respect for you and I love your family. And,
too, bro.
You've always been a good mentor, to me and my brothers, my sister, and my family. My family loves you. So we, anytime we somewhere, your name come up, often when we talking about different stuff, especially when we're reminiscing about Greater Compton and, talking about Friendly Temple, and you're a huge part of our family.
I appreciate that, bro. Thank you very much. And, now you're going to make me start watching some Mets baseball games.
Yeah, watch the Mets, man. We good this year, man. We're going to be good. Hopefully we make it to the World Series.
I'm going to check you out. Well, let me give you your coachable moment. And I thank Drew for the time that he's shared with us some really practical, insightful things. And so your coachable leadership moment is that I want you to try leading from behind. Try leading from behind. And what I simply mean by that is that, if you're a leader in your home, you're a leader in your ministry, you're a leader on your sports team, you're a leader in corporate America, or you're a leader in nonprofit sector, try leading from behind. Translated, what can you do to push your employee, your team, your family ahead of you. Because sometimes we leaders make it all about ourselves, but really it's all about taking care of our people that are with us. And as I said on prior episodes, I've learned real simple. If you take care of your people will take care of you. All right, so once again, I want to thank Drew Toussaint for joining us. I'm very grateful for those of you who have been joining us on this journey. I want to thank Nicole Robinson, who serves as the director for the Deep End with Ed podcast, for the amazing work that she does behind the scenes. And I'm very grateful for everyone who's just kind of been on this journey with us. I do ask that you go to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Deep End with Ed, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel, Deep End with Ed podcast. We're trying to grow that audience there too. So we certainly would appreciate that. And I'm very grateful again for everything that we've been able to do and to partner with you, our listeners. I don't take you for granted. And so let's just keep pressing forward with courage. So the Deep End with Ed podcast is a Beyond the Mask Conversations production. So thank you, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Deep End with Ed. God bless you.